that. Okay, should we start? So, Siman Yud Halacha Zayin Malbushim Sheim Pesuchim Min Hatzodim Lemata. Very interesting halacha. So you've got a malbush. Imagine you've got some sort of vest, like the vest Tzitzis. So you've got a vest, and then you've got it's pasuach, it's open on the side. Or imagine even a jacket where you've got a split at the back. So you've got, if you think about it, you've got four corners. You've got 1, 2, and then 3 and 4 corners. So malbushim shein pesuchim min hatzodim lemata. They're open at the sides at the bottom. V'yesh lehem arba kanfos letzad mata, and you've got 4 corners at the bottom. But at the top it's all closed. In merubai sosum, if the majority of it is closed up, if it's sort of all stitched up, then potter, right? So therefore, imagine I don't need to wear a tzitzis on. Imagine there was just a split in the back of my jacket, and if I start putting tzitzis on it, because the majority is all closed up. But if the majority of the beged is going to be open up, then you've got a beged with 4 corners. Then the chetz yisosum, the chetz pasuach, that's 50-50. Matilin isoy lechumra, then it's a sofek, and therefore the chumra you put tzitzis on them. Ve'ein yotzin by b'Shabbos, but you don't go out on Shabbos because it could be a problem of carrying, where if the beged is not mechuyev and tzitzis, then the tzitzis are not bottled to the beged, and therefore you're carrying the tzitzis, and it doesn't work. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah Pater. So again, the Mechaber says you've got a malbush, which is pasuach min hatzodim lemata. So you're then, it's if the majority is sosum, then you're potter. Says the Mishnah Berurah, afilim yesh b'hamiut hapasuach shir talis. Even if on the small amount, which is pasuach, you've got a shir talis, still you're potter for putting tzitzis on. V'im also by tzitzis v'achach pasuch rubai. If what would happen if you got, for example, this jacket? So you've got a split at the back, and therefore you've got 4 corners. But it's sosum, rubai is sosum, so there's no problem putting tzitzis on. What if you put tzitzis on, and then you sort of cut up, and the majority is now pasuach? So says the Mishnah Berurah, it doesn't work, because v'imasa by tzitzis v'achach pasuch rubai pasulim mishum tasev le'mina osui. Because you've got to put the tzitzis on the beged. You can't put the tzitzis and then cut and create the beged. That's a problem. Tasev le'mina osui. Hey, but therefore you have to undo the tzitzis and put the mic on again. Okay, then we said if it's rubai pasuach, if this beged is split and the majority is open, then you're chayiv in tzitzis. Hainu dafka roiv mikol habeged. It's got to be roiv of all the beged. Not like the tailors make a small talis. They stitch it on the side. And they make a little hole that you put your hands through. And they stitch underneath that hole where you put your arms through. And they leave the majority open. And they just measure, is it roiv beged or not? They do that, they measure it from tachas hayadayim. That's a big mistake. And because in that situation it's not going to be called a 4-cornered garment. The karav hadav and it's karav that the person making the bracha is the bracha of batala. And it's no different, it's no better than a beged which is 50-50, which we said in the Mechaber. You can't make a bracha on it. But also lots of but Shabbos you can't go out on Shabbos. And it's sorich limbeid af mashlemal min. You've got to measure everything, even that, the whole beged, even that bit which is above the hole where you put your hands. Even the hole is considered sosim by halacha. In other words, imagine you've got a vest tzitzis, right? So So you've got the opening coming up. We need the majority to be open. Now, where do you measure from? So he's saying even the hole around the neck is considered sosom because it's a small hole, and therefore that doesn't give you need the roiv of the whole beged to be pasuach for it to be chayv and tzitzis. And you count the hole, even though it's like oimed murala parat. Yeah, it's like you've got it's parts, it's open, it's a hole, it's not material, but that would be considered sosom. So you've got to measure very carefully to make sure that it's properly ruboy pasuach. Okay, v'chayv b'tzitzis. In that situation where it's 50-50, the mechaber says you chayv and tzitzis, avl ein mevarchin alav. You don't make a bracha, and you shouldn't wear them on Shabbos. Why not? To shem a potter, because maybe we are on the side of caution, and maybe this beged is potter from tzitzis, and therefore there's no need to put the tzitzis on. The tzitzis have a kamasui, and the tzitzis themselves will be like a masui, a burden. You're carrying them. Like we say later on, the after Carmelis also, you can't even walk out into a Carmelis, which is an Issa Drabonon on Shabbos, in this case of Sophic. You don't put yourself in a situation of Sophic Issa Drabonon. The Rabbi Menachrenim Askimim Mahalas Talmud the Maker was there, and many Achronim are making in this situation. Take a look at footnote 20 in the Dirshu. Very interesting note. This question is tzorchian. Again, what's the question? You've got a case where you've got like a vest tzitzis, and you've got or a beged which is 50-50 split. It's not sure whether there's a chiyuv of putting tzitzis on. So the mechaber paskins you're chayiv in tzitzis, just in case, but you shouldn't wear them on Shabbos because on the tzad they don't have to wear the tzitzis. It's not mechuyev in tzitzis. You're carrying your tzitzis. That's what Mishnah Berurah says. So the Chazon Ish says it's tzorchian. Listen to this lomdus. True, the obligation to put tzitzis on this beged is only misat sofek. The tzitzis themselves can't be called a masui. There is a need to attach tzitzis to this beged. It's not a muscle, and muscle means unnecessary carrying. This is not unnecessary carrying because I've got to put the tzitzis on the beged because there's a sophic on the beged. And says the Chazon Ish, therefore the Chazon Ish questions this for kiven she'ein hachutzim emdim l'notel, and since the chutzim are not there to be taken off because I need them als the sophic, hariheim b'teilim lebeged v'choshev kebeged altzmei. I need the tzitzis there because there's a sophic whether I need them or not. And therefore they're choshev part of the beged. And therefore you can't go out on Shabbos. The das hagon Rishon Mizan and Orach sheitochen she'af hashulchan aruch soiv k'divrei Chazon Ish. Maybe the mechaber agrees with the Chazon Ish. Mashe pasuk shebeged sofek imuchayv b'tzitzis enos is b'Shabbos. And perhaps the reason why the mechaber is saying don't go out in this sofek beged on Shabbos because you perhaps want to change the beged after Shabbos, and you want to be mesaken it. You want to stitch up the sides of the beged, open it more to make it definitely chayv and tzitzis. And therefore you're going to take off the tzitzis and you're going to open it up and be mesaken, rectify the beged after Shabbos. And therefore, so therefore you don't really need the tzitzis. Since I intend to take them off, they're not considered bottled to the beged, and therefore it would be considered carrying. Okay, just interesting. Just one more ha'ara from this, the next paragraph of footnote 20. Shlomo Zalman brings a great raya. He says, "Yesh lahavi raya le'eser lot says for beged shesafek imuchayev b'tzitzis." I'll bring you a raya, says Shlomo Zalman. You shouldn't go out on Shabbos or stam in a sofek when you're wearing tzitzis. Even in the situation where you have no intention to take these tzitzis off and to fix the beged, because it brings a tosis in Chulin. You're not allowed to carry a shofar on Rosh Hashanah for the benefit of a tumtum. Now, tumtum, we're not sure if he's a zocher and a keva. If he's a zocher, he's chayiv in shofar. If he's in a keva, he's potter. Ve'en's a nechshav tilted tzorech. And it's not called tilted tzorech, but you might want to say, afshin esophagesh lechayiv b'shmei shofar. If the tumtum says to you, hey, do I listen to the shofar? Psak to him will be, well, you're a sophic, and I'll sophic, listen to the shofar. But yet, Tosa says, I can't carry this shofar to blow it because it's a tiltul shlo tzorech. Okay, but either way, Shlomo Zalman ends up is mesupik about it. But that's an interesting observation on this halacha. Okay, let's carry on. Halacha ches. Kappa. She pesuchuk be'inyan sheyesh lo arba knofes. You've got some sort of baguette which has got 4 corners. Im yikbu uba hastringa la'asosu kustuma. If you put some sort of safety pin, some sort of you close it off by some sort of closing it up, to exempt it from tzitzis, that it hasn't got 4 corners anymore. This fixing doesn't help unless it's properly fixed. And it's also fixed lower down in the belt. The people, onlookers, will look at it and it looks like it's properly shut, and that's why you don't have to wear tzitzis on it. Because if it's not like that and it's quite open, then it looks a little bit dodgy. It looks marasayin. Guys walking around with a 4-cornered garment without tzitzis, it looks like marasayin. Says the Mishnah Berurah, it's something which you use to attach, I think, like a safety pin. You put it together to close up the 2 begadim. On the talis cotton, you shouldn't put safety pins to make them all sosim, the havik sosim. For who shenichvafim ma'oid rosh hakrosim nishtzat sheni, she'en yochel atir al yedei ma'aser. It doesn't. It's so connected. It's so attached. You can't just undo them easily. You've got to take them to the tailor, to the dry cleaners or something to undo them. The bezeh chashiv chibur gomer is considered the proper chibur. In kilaim v'lehein in tzitzis, both vis-a-vis kilaim and tzitzis. Otherwise, it's not. Now, what about the following? I'm not quite sure how the vest tzitzis works. Some will know others will know better than others. But if you've got vest tzitzis, the point is you've got or any baguette. If it's got to be open to be considered 4 corners. What if you've got buttons? Do vest tzitzis have buttons? I don't know. No. But, okay, so let's say you've got buttons on them, and so is that considered an attachment? So he says in footnote 21. If the baguette is going to be closed up through buttons, this is easily open. You have to go to the dry cleaners to open them, and therefore it's considered opened with ease, and therefore it's considered open, and therefore it's properly mechuyev in tzitzis. Okay, let's carry on. Tes haknofayim. The corners of the 4 corners of your baguette, this is important halacha. They've got to be square and not, with a right angle degree, and not rounded off. That's why, by the way, when you sometimes see in bekishes and kapotas and things like that, some of the front are rounded off, like this jacket here. This is rounded off. This is not because of halachic concerns. This is just the style from Marks and Spencer, right? But in some shops where you get bekishes made, then they would dafka round it off, so it should be a shayla of tzitzis. But it's based on this halacha. The corners should be rounded. They should be squared and not rounded. Because if they're rounded, then there's no chiyuv of tzitzis. Okay. Halacha yud. Mitznefes, a scarf, patura. That's exempt from tzitzis. Afilu shel artzis hamarov. Even if in sort of the Arab countries, where the whole scarf is over a man's body as well, and even though it covers the head and the majority of his body, potter, because the main objective of this scarf is to cover the head. Ksuscha means on your guf, not on your head. It says in Mishnah Berurah, just do Tes and Yud. If it's rounded, that's not called a kanof, and you need 4 square corners. Yud, Kibben She'ikara, says Mishnah Berurah, this scarf is made just to cover your head. Loksus harosh, and it's got to be on your. It's for the tzitzis. It's got to be covering your body, not your head. What about the atara? We spoke about this earlier. The atara, the little on the top of the talus. maybe that should indicate that the talus really is featuring for your head. That's not because the ikr of the talus is to cover your head, but rather it's to, as we said, is to remind you which is the top of the talus, which is the bottom of the talus. That's all, but really, of course, the talus is for your body. He wasn't bothered about which part of the talus goes on the top, which goes on the bottom. And so to the Eli Rabbis machriya. If the top turns or tears, and you want to switch it around, that the bottom of the talus becomes the top of the talus, that would be okay. Just briefly, the footnote 24, which we discussed some time ago. What about making an Torah out of with silver or or gold or something to decorate it, which you see some people do. So he brings just a quick reminder of this halacha. Last Torah mikesef mizav b'chelek hamunach al harosh on the top, which goes around the head. Kosovar chashulchan she'ena kedai. It's not worth doing it because that would suggest that the ikar of the talus is the head, and that's not true. Or the ikar of the talus is that which goes in the body. However, if you were allowed to do it, but Moshe says, we all have, most of us have on the talus some sort of silk, which indicates which is the top. So misfar, there's no difference in that or a silver one, because both have the same problem, as it were, to suggest that perhaps it's only made for the head. And then he concludes, V'yesh linhag k'minhag mekayim. One should do whatever the minhag is, whether it's a silver one or the meshy one or whatever it may be. Okay, yes, I think that's why Chabad don't have anything. They have plain talesim without any atara, perhaps based on this Arizal, who is not market. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.